Hi, I'm Lloyd, and alongside my brother and business partner Dan, I'm the co-host of the Business Anchors podcast. Today we're talking about communication, which we're pretty good at, by the way. I would say we're pretty much communication experts now.
Because I'm no communication expert, as you probably know, I looked up some proper communication tips.
Okay, Dan's given the game away there. At least we've done our research, so you'll get tips from the experts. We'll also discuss how software like Slack can make communication more efficient. And I think, for example,
that make sense?
Slack helps that.
Yeah.
As in...
You formulate what you're saying in a simplified way.
You're not having to do the email thing of... Hi guys, hope you're having a good weekend. Hope you had a good weekend. Oh, we really need to catch up on this thing. If you're available... It's just,
I need to give me this.
Yeah,
this
it's
day.
Basically, are you available on Tuesday for this? Now that might not be what the email lovers out there want to hear. We all know those people we work with that think being busy is something to be extremely proud of. People, and it's sometimes people are quite proud of it because they seem busy.
Yeah.
Oh, 623 emails.
Yeah.
Got a better deal with that. And you're like...
That's not good.
But yeah, you're just being hugely inefficient with your communication. I better stop recording the intro now. These 840 emails aren't going to read themselves. So let's get into episode 44 of the Business Anchors podcast.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
Why are we so bad at communicating with each other?
Tuesday.
Oh,
sorry, I wasn't listening. Oh,
classic.
What a comedic start to the Business Anchors podcast.
We are actually quite... Well, I think communication, this is what we talk about in this podcast, communication, I think it's probably one of our biggest weaknesses.
Well...
But well, go on.
I would like to disagree.
Okay.
So we're going to debate during this podcast. Mm-hmm. Now, I think me and you think we're worse than we are because we communicate so often and we get it wrong sometimes.
Okay.
If you think almost every single day of our lives we're communicating with
spend like 10 hours with each other.
Yeah. And there's a lot of communication going on through about 8 different channels.
Yeah.
So I think I agree with you. We can improve 100%. I agree with you that it has been a weakness and still probably is compared to most things. But I don't think we're as bad as you think because... Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, that is a good point.
If we communicate 1,000 times and we're getting it wrong 4 times...
I guess I've just focused in on when we've not communicated well, and that happens every so often. And I thought, if we're good at communicate, but no, when you look at the bigger picture, that's interesting actually.
I think I have identified a big kind of something consistent when we don't communicate well in our business.
Go on.
When it causes issues. When either of us are really busy, and I noticed this, actually especially for you, I think even in your personal life, and I think you get this from Dad, it's the listening, being completely in the conversation, but your brain's probably only 50% there. So then you don't even have... Actually, I do this as well. I shouldn't just say it's you. Yeah. I do this as well. And so I'll say to you, we had this conversation, and I remember it exactly, or
I do this to you as well?
Yeah. I've just realised, as I'm saying it, I've realised this is definitely not just you.
Yeah.
And even though you're in the conversation, whether it's on Slack or email or face-to-face... But your brain, my brain's thinking, for that shoot, actually, I do need to just check the dates in case they get...
Do you know what I do now, though? To try and improve that, with Slack, I try and, whenever there's something I just say to you off the cuff, I Slack you so that it's documented. Yeah. So it's we both read our Slacks and know that...
That's an interesting point of communication as the team builds in a bigger business, actually, because I sometimes think the team here might think I'm weird because, for example, before we moved around, Lucas sat next to me, but I still very often would Slack him things because I find, for me, and I think in my experience with other people, if there's a log of the communication, it's easier to, especially if we're all busy doing different things. Yeah. If I send it to Lucas, he can take a quick glance and then go, oh yeah, I'll deal with that later. Yeah. Whereas if I say it to someone and then it gets forgotten. So
for those that don't know what a Slack is, why is it different to email? Can't you just email someone?
It's like email, but people that use it think they're cooler.
Yeah, probably.
No, it's definitely, it is... it does have that vibe.
You kind of can have channels for different topics, and it's organised better, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically WhatsApp, but organised better for businesses.
Yeah.
So tagging people, bringing in clients to certain channels to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I think
that's been a game changer for us.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we tried Monday.com, where we used to schedule, like there was a project and schedule the tasks in, and then no one did it.
Yeah.
But this works so well. I don't know why. It's weird, isn't it?
Well, I think they're quite different. Monday.com, I think, is more around project management, but then has the communication channels in there. But they weren't easy enough to use that it meant after 2 weeks of saying, we're going to use it, people just started emailing again.
So when communication does go wrong, and it has in the past with us, why is that? Is it the thing that you said that me or you is not listening to the... Is it listening?
I think half of it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird, even yesterday when there was a call where 2 or 3 of us were on, and we're in the same call, but myself and Barney came out of it thinking the other person had said a different thing. And I still don't know.
It's interpretation.
That's what I mean. I think we both heard the same things, but we interpreted it differently, which I find quite interesting, because we heard exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same words.
And if we didn't discuss that afterwards, we wouldn't have known that we had. So, and I think it's made it harder during the pandemic, having more conversations by phone and Zoom.
Yeah.
I think, and on... No, actually, written maybe not so much, because you can look back to it. But I think when you're face to face with someone like I am with you now, I don't know, there's something about it that you can...
It's body language, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
all that stuff. The stuff that's subconscious, I think, that makes you understand more than hearing a voice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I looked up, because I'm no communication expert, as you probably know, I looked up some like proper communication tips. And some of the things, like us just speaking now, it's kind of logical. Like body language is important, which we've just said. Yeah. Cool. Lloyd's waving his arms around. Eye contact, which is weird. I think eye contact's a weird thing. Do you not think it's weird? No,
sorry, I'm just staring at the camera.
But like we're not. I don't know. Do you kind of plan where your eyes are looking? Do you know what I mean? Sounds ridiculous.
I don't plan it, but I do think this is hard for people that aren't as confident. Eye contact is very hard.
Yeah.
And if you're not confident in what you're saying, it's very easy to kind of look away as you speak. But I do think it's important, especially in a group. If I'm saying we really need to improve communication, and I'm looking at you while I'm saying we.
He means that to me.
You're kind of thinking, that's probably more for me, because he's literally staring at me while he's saying it. Or like, we need to have a meeting about that thing. Yeah. I'm saying it to the whole room, but if I'm looking at you... Yeah. But I guess that I hadn't really thought about that. But.
Do you think some people have to train themselves to have eye contact?
Yeah, well,
I just never thought...
Are you not aware? I think in a lot of situations... don't feel as confident, and notice myself losing eye contact and then having to remind myself,
really?
I should. Yeah.
Or maybe I'm just overconfident and I just feel...
No, but I do think naturally you're more confident, so that's not a thing. Because if you think of people you've met that are really low on confidence, it's almost the whole time they're not looking at you.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I'm a good level of confidence, but it's sometimes in situations I'm not, I notice like, I just looked away then, but I'll try and keep... Yeah.
Well, there's also the thing, they say, I'm thinking of, this is ridiculous, Jeremy Kyle, when they do the lie detector and all that kind of thing. There's all things around like the way you're looking. Yeah. I think whenever I'm thinking of remembering something in my, like a detail, I look up.
Yeah, there's some
when you're like...
There's a way lots of people look when they're going back to their memory, and then there's a way you look when you're
just making shit up.
No, that's the same thing. There's a way when you're trying to think of something that... it hasn't happened, and you're like using your imagination.
This made up thing.
So when you're like, oh no, I didn't sleep with the neighbour. I was getting a pizza from this place, and you look that way. Then you're like, hang on, that wasn't from your memory. That was from your imagination.
Can I share some more of these tips? Yeah, and we'll see. So there's 9 tips. We've spoken about some of them. First one: simplify and stay on message. Use simple, straightforward language. Remember that. Yeah, use simple, straightforward language.
And I think, for example, Slack helps that.
Yeah.
As in,
You formulate what you're saying in a simplified way.
You're not having to do the email thing of, "Hi guys, hope you're having a good weekend. Hope you had a good weekend. Oh, we really need to catch up on this thing. If you're available, it's just,
I need to just give me this.
Yeah,
this
it's
date.
basically, are you available on Tuesday for this? And
Yeah.
there's not the stuff around it that clutters the.
That's actually a really good tip. This is something I think Dad taught me. You know, when you're going back and forth with emails, or maybe you might have taught me this as well. Someone did, and you're like, you basically want to set up a call or a meeting or a thing rather than going, "Can you let me know some of the times you're available?" Back and forth. You basically email them saying, "Are you available Tuesday at 6?" I literally use that every single day now, and it cuts communication.
I think
the back and forth.
It might have been from the 4-hour work week actually.
Did you might have been
potentially?
using it.
I think it's so long since I read it, but it's similar to that. So it's something like, to stop any extra steps. It's like, I can do Tuesday at 6, and then you can do something like, if that's not an option, Wednesday at 4 or Thursday at 3 would be doable. Tell me which one.
Yeah.
So either they just say yeah and it's done, or they already have your other options. Because I remember when I first started in business, you'd be like, "Oh, are you available for a meeting?" And they come back, "Yeah, sure. Can do most time next week. What's good for you?" Then you go,
and it's like-
"Yeah, I've got Tuesday and Wednesday pretty free." And they come back and go, "Oh yeah, Wednesday afternoon could be good for me." And you go, "How about 2?" And they go, "Nah, can't do 2. Can do 1 or 4." And you come back,
And then-
"Oh, 1 could be good." And then you're like, "I've sent 14 emails."
Yeah. Just say when you want to do it.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of businesses, I reckon if we went into those businesses, we'd straight away go, "This is so inefficient." Things like that, because people, and it's sometimes people are quite proud of it because they seem busy. Go,
Yeah.
"Oh, 623 emails. Got a better deal with that." And you're like,
That's not good.
but yeah, you're just being hugely inefficient with your communication.
I think something else that really affects communication as well is emotion. And I think we spoke about this before on the podcast, but the chimp paradox book, where it talks about your inner chimp, when you're reacting to something with emotion rather than logic. And another little tip that we always do now, I think you do as well, is I always try and try and not respond to something when there's emotion involved straight away. Like if someone sends a shitty email or comment or says something, rather than replying, I'll sit on it and not say anything until because then your emotion is eventually
the emotional feeling of like,
the logic comes in.
He's been an idiot. I'm gonna tell him you're an idiot for saying that, and then the next day you just don't care about it, and you think that was a bit annoying. He spoke to me like that, but I'll come back and just with a good response that makes sense, that doesn't have the emotion.
I think something else we've got good at between our communication as well is, I feel like we have way less shitty communication, like little remarks and stuff like that. I don't know what we've done to improve that.
You just stop being such a twat, really.
Yeah. But we've done something. I think something we did actually that had a really big impact was us properly defining our roles and responsibilities. Remember when we both just used to do everything, and then it was like, I'm head of sales and marketing, you're CEO.
That's definitely because
then it's clear like your responsibility is this.
Both of us were trying to grow this business without clearly defining what we were both responsible for.
So
there's so many things. This hasn't got done, and I'm going, "Why haven't you done that?" And you're like, "Why haven't you done that?" So that was definitely a thing. And I think another thing around processes that really improve things, I was saying about us basically having our brain somewhere else even when we're in the conversation.
I do that a lot.
I think we've built processes into the business, so the business is more efficient. We have more people around us to help with things, so we have time to listen. I think there was a point where there's been points when it was just me and you, and when it was just me, you and Ida, and we were at such capacity, we didn't have time to listen to each other. We've got thousands of things to do.
Ida was a game changer in the fact that she could help us with lots of stuff that...
So I haven't got time for communication with you because I've got to book flights to this event in Prague that I'm speaking at.
Book a podcast with you, and
I've got to do all these things. I've got to liaise with... And then Ida came in and works very efficiently to take care of loads of things to do with our business like that, and that allowed us to have the time to have conversations and actually be in them, not our mind elsewhere constantly.
If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, I'm probably not that good a communicator, what would your number one tip be?
Number one, I would say, well, I was going to say being self-aware, but if they're already thinking this, they must be self-aware. But I would say
That's a good one,
in each bad communication that you notice, trying to be self-aware to think, what could I have done?
That's a really good point.
To improve that. So if someone thought they were meeting you at 2 and you'd said it was 4, go back and think, this wasn't entirely my fault, but what could I have done? It's like, I could have actually just emailed and say, okay, confirmed at 2, rather than just go, okay, see you then.
Yeah.
And I think that could be...
I think we subconsciously do this a lot in our business, and these minor things constantly help us improve. Like recently, on the income spreadsheet thing, I thought you were doing something, you thought I was, and we just said, right, let's decide now, the process is this. And since then, there's been no problems, because we just said...
Yeah, I think that's it, sorting things quickly as well, because we used to have a shitty thing. You haven't done it. Oh, you haven't either. And then we just go, oh. And it's like, okay, same problem moving forward forever.
Yeah.
Whereas now we go, okay,
that didn't work.
Let's sort this. Who's doing it? You? Okay, yeah, me. All right. What do you look out for if you think someone's like really good at communicating?
Yeah.
What shows that to you? Do you have any?
Asks lots of questions and listens. This reminds me of the Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, where in that it's like, if you show interest in someone and you ask questions, you become interesting. And I feel like if you can tell if someone's listening to what some people, you go to networking events, they just, what do you do? And they're sort of off looking at the coffees and that, and you're like, oh, he doesn't give a shit. Whereas if someone's like, oh really, and what do you do in your spare time? And it's
I think that as well, that it's a big part of what I was thinking, which I've noticed while I've been interviewing lots of people over the last couple of months. It's when it's enjoyable to communicate with someone.
Yeah.
That's usually a big part of it. You think, this is good. This is a good two-way conversation. I'm enjoying it. Yeah. Clearly something
we've all established here in the office that Lloyd does. You're a reflector or whatever. When you're communicating with someone in interviews, we can tell what the person's like because you act in a similar... If they're timid, you act timid. If they're loud, you act loud. Which is so strange, isn't it? You mirror what they...
Yeah. I really noticed it more when you pointed it out. I was like, wow, I really do that. It seems like my personality changes. But I think naturally I try and make the other person feel comfortable.
I suppose if they're really timid and
timid, I'm going, hey, tell me all this stuff. Then, so I think that's what it is. But I was really interested when you guys pointed that out.
Yeah.
I think another good point, which is probably why we should wrap up this episode in a minute.
Yeah.
This is a good segue.
Is concise.
It doesn't take a long time to communicate your point.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really work in a podcast because this would have been done in 3 minutes. So I know there's for entertaining conversations, and if you're just chatting, chilling, obviously you don't have to be be with your communication.
That's what I was going to say, but I don't always think efficiency is the number one metric. If someone's upset and you're trying to make them feel comfortable, if you go, feel more comfortable, there you go.
Yeah.
That's really efficient. That was a really good way of communicating.
It wasn't because that wasn't the norm. I understand in that conversation, but in a business sense, for example, when I've been interviewing people, if I ask a question and someone gives me a concise answer that communicates what they need to in 15 seconds.
That's more impressive than...
As opposed to a lot of people I interview, I ask a question, they speak without bringing me into the conversation at all for around 3 or 4 minutes.
You're like...
And then I'm kind of thinking, I'm going to have to move them on in a minute because they're just...
Waffling. I think though if people don't have a solid answer, they will waffle. Like I used to do that in interviews.
Yeah.
If they're like, have you got an example of a time when you had good leadership skills and you don't have leadership skills and you're just... waffle on about something Communication.
So you think we're bad, I think
well
we're
I
right.
think you've changed my opinion based on what you've said, which is true. Calls to action at the end of the podcast. I
was just going to say, I think in our next weekly meeting with the team, Dan, we should ask our team how we could communicate better to see if they've got any tips for us, because it's all well and good us going, we do these things, and they're listening thinking, I asked you that 4 weeks ago and you still haven't answered me. Cheers, mate.
That's a good point.
That might be a hard session. Wait. Cool, thanks for listening, business anchors. Another enjoyable one for us, so I hope you've enjoyed listening, and please do communicate with us about how much you've enjoyed this podcast. I'd love to communicate efficiently with you.